Hi guys, I know that we all love, to hear about love, relationships, sex, all of those things. But today's video is on obedience, and it is a word that I feel strongly like the Lord wants me to share it. And it's from a story that we are all familiar with. It is from Genesis 22, where the Lord told Abraham to go and sacrifice his only son. If you listen to Apostle Emmanuel Aaron often, there's something he says, which is that go is the capital that you need. So if God tells you go, that is all the capital that you need, right, to carry out whatever instructions that he has given you. But before we even get to that, let's start from the beginning. And I'll be starting from verse 2 of Genesis chapter 22. Take your son, he said, this is God speaking, your only son Isaac, whom you love. Go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about. So sometimes I pause here. I'm like, God, what do you mean on the mountain you will tell him about? Because a lot of us, right, when we're reading this story about Abraham, it just feels like, yes, God told him this is where you are going, and he knew exactly where he was going. He didn't even know where he was going. Like, that's how crazy it is that God can wake you up and say, go to this place where I will show you. What do you mean where you will show me? Give me. A lot of us are like, God, give me the whole blueprint. Tell me that when I get to this junction, I will turn to the right, I will turn to the left, and then I will see where you are sending me. But that's not, the case in this story. God was like, when you get there, I will show you, right? And I just pray that we would trust God enough that even when he tells us to start things that we are not 100% clear about, that we will still obey him. So moving on to the next thing that always blows my mind in this story is in verse 3. And it says, so Abraham got up early in the morning. So for context, God told him that this place you are going, it's not as if you are just going randomly. You are going there to sacrifice your son. That's the instruction that I'm giving you. Your son that you love so much, right? And Abraham woke up early the next morning. Do you know how crazy that is? Abraham did not wait 1 week, 1 month, 2 years. Before following up on that instruction, literally, the Lord told him something, and the next morning, he woke up early to obey. So you might be watching this and in your heart of hearts some of the things the Lord has been telling you to do, and you have delayed your obedience. This is the time to look back and tell God, see, you actually told me to do this thing and I've been dragging my feet, and I apologize and I'm going to do it. So this is another thing to remember in this story of obedience, that it is so important that we are prompt with our obedience. A lot of the times, some of us will say, I'm waiting for 10,000 signs, I'm waiting for, but how God speaks to you. Your heart of heart. You are convinced that God is the one that is giving you that instruction, right? So don't continue to delay. Like Abraham, he woke up early the next day to obey an instruction that was even a difficult instruction. It's not as if, the Lord told him, go and buy lollipop and go and, enjoy your life. This was literally go and kill your son, right? So yes, this is another charge to us, to promptly obey the Lord whenever he puts something on our hearts. The next point, which is very closely linked to this previous one, is also in chapter 4. And it says, on the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. On the third day. So anytime I read this story, I'm like, God instructed you to go and sacrifice the son that you waited many years to have. You woke up the next day very early to go and obey this very difficult instruction. And then you walked 3 days. It's not the day this one you have BMW to be driving. Now you people have car. You can book Uber and Bolt, right, to get to places very easily. But this is a man that had to walk 3 days. 3 days, guys, to obey God. And anytime, I read that part of the story, I'm like, Mubolaji, if the Lord tells you to do something difficult, are you going to continue going first day, second day, third day without turning back? Without saying, maybe it was not the Lord after all, this difficult, instruction. It was probably the devil. It was probably my mind. All of those things, right? So Abraham continued to walk to that mountain where he knew that he would have to carry out something that would pain him, and he continued to walk for 3 days. So I think this part of the story is just telling us that not every part of an instruction from God will be easy. Just because God has said go and do that thing, it does not now mean that the path to that thing, right, will be sharp. God has said, me, I like to talk about marriage and relationships. God has said you will get married. So because he has given you that word, pam, next week you are married. Sometimes, it's a process. And the fact that Abraham continued to walk to that place where he felt the Lord was leading him. Day 1, he was walking. Day 2, he was walking. Day 3, he was walking, and he did not turn back. That's just an amazing quality that all of us, me included, need to imbibe as Christians. When God has given you an instruction, number 1, as I've mentioned earlier, obey early. And now number 2, when you are obeying and the instruction is difficult, keep going, because you know that you have heard the Lord. The next point is in verse 7, and it says, then Isaac spoke to his father Abraham and asked, my father. And he said, here I am, my son. Isaac said, the fire and the wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Very good question, Isaac. Then Abraham answered, God himself will provide. Go is the capital that you need. And if God has given you an instruction and it seems difficult and it seems like where are the resources going to come from, just remember that it is God that has given you this instruction, and He's the one that will provide. I like to be practical in my videos, so I'll be using myself as an example. When I started to feel like the Lord wanted me to come to the UK, you guys, in my mind I was like, UK, why? No, it is Canada I want to go, because when you compare online content about Canada to like online content about the UK, you guys, you know how people make UK seem like you're going to come here and suffer, you pay taxes, you do all those things. So when I started to feel strongly like I should apply for like, global talent visa to the UK and all that, I'm like, no, God, I don't want. Like for months I kept, yes, I did not promptly obey. Like Abraham, like I kept pushing it. I'm like, God, like I don't even have family. I wanted to go to Canada because I felt like, oh, my sister will be closer to me. If anything happens, I can run to my sister. But in the UK, I literally did not have any family member, anybody, right? But I remember that there was one day I just continued to pray that, God, if you are the one sending me here, like please confirm your word that you want me to actually take this step. And I remember how God, confirmed that word to me, and it was still the same goal, right, that He used to confirm His word. And when I came, like with my visa, you can come without having a job. It was so scary, because how do you move to a new country? You don't have family, you don't have a job yet. That was literally my story. And thankfully, like God provided where I could stay for months without having to pay rent and all of that. And I was applying for jobs, and it felt like, I would not get any job. But the way God finally did it, like indeed that, belief that when God sends you somewhere, God Himself will provide, and He will do it in such a way that nobody else will get the glory. Just always remember that if God has given me this instruction, if God has said to stay, if God has said to go, if God has said to start this business, if God has said to start this relationship, everything might not seem rosy, but God will provide. Jehovah what? Jireh. And I'll be ending this video with verse 17, and it says, I will indeed. So God was like, what Abraham did, his obedience is just so beautiful, right? And God said, I will indeed bless you and make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and the sand of the seashore. Your offspring will possess the city gates of their enemies, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring, because you have obeyed my command. There are blessings literally in obeying God. When God says in His word, don't steal, don't covet, don't do this, don't do that. Sometimes it feels like he's giving us those instructions because he's being hard on us, because he does not want us to enjoy life. But in you obeying those instructions are blessings. Imagine that after, God knows when Abraham died, but years and years and years after, like, he's still a father of faith. He's still somebody that when we're going through a lot as Christians, we can look back at his story and say, if Abraham could believe the Lord, I can believe the Lord as well, right? So just always remind yourself that there are blessings in obedience. Yes, we don't obey God because we want, the gift. We don't obey God because we want him to, bless us in return. But whether we know it or we don't, there are blessings in obedience. So always remember that in this my obedience to God, I can never ever be stranded. There's a song I was singing yesterday, and the lyrics is, I cannot call on your name and end up in shame. No way. I cannot bow before you and still be bowing before men. No way, right? So just remember that as you bow before your God, as you obey your God, even in this world where it seems like every sin has overcome the world, everybody is doing this one, everybody is doing that one, this one has moved in with her boyfriend, you are single, and you can as well, also be having casual sex, or you have decided that your body is the temple of the Lord, and you have decided that whether everybody is doing it or not, I will obey God. Just know that there are blessings. And again, I don't want you to have that mindset that all blessings are material. They are not. It's not all blessings that you will see in your hand like this, even in this lifetime. The Bible talks about some people that, they waited for the promise, and not all the promises came to pass, but there are promises that you will gain in eternity, and you will just look back and say, God, I thank you. But even as there will be blessings in eternity, know that you will also enjoy blessings here as well. I like to tell people that, great is your reward in heaven, but great is your reward on earth as well. So if you obey God, if you live by his precepts, just know that you will be blessed. There's no curse, in your life. You'll be blessed, and God will be so proud of you. So I hope that this video has encouraged you to obey promptly, number one. Number two, to not give up when it seems like it is hard. Abraham continued to walk 3 days. Remember that. Also remember that God will provide. All you need is that go. When God has said go, when God has said stay, when God has said be calm, whatever instructions he has given you, the capital is in that instruction of God. And then the last thing to remember is that there are blessings in your obedience. And I pray that you'll be encouraged. For anybody who has found it so hard to obey an instruction, who is just discouraged, and you just feel like, when would all of this end? I pray that you would wait on the Lord. I was singing a song again this morning that, I will wait on you, Jesus. I'm not in choir for a reason. You're the sun in my horizon. I think it's by Jonita Bynum, but I love that song, and I was just singing it to the Lord that it's hard, it's not hard, it's smooth, it's not smooth. I will wait on you because it pays to wait on you. So yeah, I think I've talked enough for this video. Until my next one, do stay blessed and see you soon. Bye.